Ladies and gentlemen, I am Rabindra Kishore Mishra for the conference From Gurukul to Global, Paving Path to Viksit Bharat at 2047, Restructuring Higher Education with Indic Priorities. My paper is Pre-Newtonian Physics in Bharatiya Wisdom, Laws of Motion and Gravity in the Vaisheshika Sutra. Imagine a vibrant, intricate rangoli representing the holistic, interconnected wisdom of ancient India. Now, imagine a cannonball crashing into it, scattering its patterns into dust. This image isn't just art, it is history. That rangoli represents our indigenous scientific heritage, like the Vaisheshika Sutra, which flourished for centuries. The cannonball represents the colonial educational restructuring of the 19th century, specifically policies by figures like Macaulay and Max Muller that systematically marginalized this knowledge, labeling it mythical or religious to establish Western intellectual dominance. My research argues that before this disruption, India possessed a sophisticated natural philosophy that anticipated key principles of physics long before Newton. Let us look at the evidence. The Vaisheshika Sutra, attributed to Rishi Kannada, didn't just tell stories, it categorized reality. As you can see here, it classified motion or karma into five distinct types, including upward and downward movement. But it goes deeper. My comparative analysis reveals striking parallels with classical mechanics. On gravity, Kannada described Gurutva, an intrinsic quality causing downward motion when support is absent. While not a mathematical formula like Newton's, it is a clear articulation of gravitational tendency. On dynamics, the concept of Parisbandha describes intrinsic atomic vibration, acknowledging that matter is fundamentally dynamic, not static. On causation, concepts like Vega, that is impulse, and Samyoga, that is contact, explain motion through physical interaction, not magic. This was a rational, verifiable framework for understanding the physical world. So, where did this knowledge go? This timeline tracks the distortion to restoration. It begins with the ancient codification of these sutras, but as we move to the 1830s and 40s, we see the colonial intervention, the establishment of Boden Chair at Oxford to promote missionary work, and Macaulay's Minot prioritizing English education. These were not neutral academic moves. They were calculated efforts to replace the Rangoli of Indian thought with a Western curriculum. By the time we reach 1847, scholars like Max Muller were commissioned to translate our texts, often framing them strictly as a religious scripture, effectively stripping them of their scientific authority. Today, we stand at the green arrow of that timeline, 2047. The goal of Viksit Bharat, that is developed India, requires more than just economic growth. It requires epistemic recovery. This final model illustrates how we can integrate ancient insights like the binary numbers of Pingala or the physics of Kannada into modern computer science and physics curricula. By decolonizing our education and recognizing the scientific rigor of texts like Vaisheshika Sutra, we don't just look backward. We recover a lost heritage to build a more creative, confident, and intellectually independent India. We reveal the Rangoli. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ria, and I'm happy to be in this session to discuss some papers which is submitted for the Viksit at 2047 conferences. And I have received a paper which is named as pre-Newtonian physics in Bharatiya wisdom, which is a laws of motion and gravity in Visheshika Sutra, and which is written by Rabindra Kishore Mishra, who is a professor retired from the Brahmapur University, and also it combined with Sushmi Mishra, who is a doctoral scholar from the same university, and they have discussed about some argument which has been included in the Indian classical philosophy, and which is beneficial contributions for the mechanics section too, which is discussing about some actions, atomic motion, gravity, and impulses, which is suggesting these ideas as scientifically rich when the Newton's laws were incorporated, or Newton's law were parallelly suited for these ideas. And this serves the foundation of a broader thesis regarding as the India scientific knowledge traditions. And the major strength of this abstract, which I felt, was it contains physics and history is there, philosophy is there, some educational policies is there. So the contrast drawn between this pre-colonial scientific advancement and later colonial education reforms is compelling, especially that interpretation and translation text, which is in the 19th century, is bringing back to some kind of the future things, or for the future India or future education policy, is quite interesting. And the argument that this led to epistatic suppression or ensure helps to frame the need of the educational reform in modern India too. That was in feeling a happiness or something, a reform is happening, going to happen in this modern education. And this abstract also adds some relevant or some contemporary relevances by linking these historical insights to the conferences which is done by this Viksit Bharat at 2047 conferences, by calling the curriculum reform and inclusion of religious knowledge systems too. And as the methodological, they can morally included some more things about this Vaisheshika Sutra or this classical mechanics can be established. But though the textual comparison, the conceptual analysis, the historical analysis, and additionally the claims about the colonial moves are awesome in this paper, and they have written or they presented, which is very much very clearly and some interesting manner. Overall, the abstract provides an engaging and assertive thesis grounded cultural and scientific history with strong contemporary education insights, which always promises and which gives that intention to be making reformation in this modern culture for our education society.
Namaste. I'm Rashmirekha Kalyani Mishra. My paper for the conference From Gurukul to Glue, Paving Path to Viksit Bharat at 2047, Restructuring Higher Education with Indic Priorities, is titled From Sulba Sutras to Smart Tags, Geometry Inspired Passive RFID Design for Future IoT Systems. Imagine for a moment that the geometry used to build ancient Vedic altars 3000 years ago holds the key to the Internet of Things in 2047. My research begins with the Sulba Sutras, ancient Indian texts that provided rigorous algorithms for geometric construction. My question was simple: can we translate this ancient wisdom of nested symmetry into a modern engineering solution for Viksit Bharat? The Sri Yantra, symbolizing the nested concentric logic of ancient Bharatiya mathematics. The answer to my question: our fabricated chipless RFID tag. Unlike standard chips that require silicon and batteries, this tag is purely passive and eco-friendly. It utilizes a multi-ring structure where each ring contributes a specific resonance, collectively forming an interpretable pattern. Just as Mondaro uses layers to organize meaning, this tag uses 18 concentric rings to organize data, creating a robust 14-bit digital fingerprint. But how do we ensure the signals from 18 tightly packed rings don't clash? We used characteristic mode analysis, or CMA, to visualize the natural voice of the geometry. Looking at the modal current distributions here, you can see that each ring supports a distinct mode, where energy concentrates along the circumference. However, when rings get too close, they interact. This is known as mutual coupling. As shown in this bar graph, the peak frequency shift is significant between adjacent rings, clusters 1, 2, 3, or 2, 3, 4, where the energy exchange is highest. To fix this, we applied the logic of control gaps. We added four small inner rings to the separate signals, ensuring we recover distinct resonances. The result is visible here. This model significance curves for the first three modes show clearly defined peaks across the frequency spectrum. This proves that, despite the dense packing, we achieved the necessary spectral spreadability to encode data reliably. To validate this, we developed an empirical transfer function. As you can see in the top graph, the measured S parameters in blue almost perfectly overlaps with our predicted values in red dashed lines. This excellent agreement confirms that our mathematical model effectively links the simulation to the physical reality. Finally, we tested the tag in a real world supply chain scenario by wrapping it around metal cans. Usually, metal distorts antenna signals. Here, you see the measured response for wrap tags on different materials like copper and strike cans. While curvature introduces shifts, the data remains readable. Comparing the synthetic RCS of the cans against the simulated planar RCS in this final graph, we see that the model identity, the unique pattern of the tag, remains intact even under stress. This takes us forward to 2047. We have developed a low-cost, eco-conscious sensor that is Atmanirbhar, rooted in indigenous science, yet validated by rigorous modern electromagnetics. By linking the Sulba Sutras to smart tags, we aren't just looking back. We are designing a future where Indian knowledge systems drive global innovations. Thank you.
Hi, we have another paper with us for the discussion, which is named as From Sulba Sutra to Smart Tags Geometry to the Inspired Passive ID, which is the design of IoT system for future or future IoT system designs, which is written by Rashmirekha Kalyani Mishra, who is from doctoral scholar of EC department NIT Odisha, and with her, so Sushant Kumar Behra is professor EC department is NIT from same Odisha. So they have discussing something new, just new things like they are integrating or they are comparing to integrating this mathematical traditions with the new or the modern engineering innovations for the passive radio frequency identification with collaborating or with indulging the Internet of Things of systems. And the central ideas is from Sulba Sutras and it applies to the chip plus RFID technology. That was an amazing idea, it is a brilliant idea which is very intellectually they have represented in this abstract, which is very attractive. From this modern engineering is getting some throwbacks from this ancient mathematical culture or ancient mathematical ideas. And this major strength which is the clarity regarding the technical overflow which they have discussed in this paper was really appreciated, which outlines the design of 18 ring chip plus RFID, and also a new technique they are making, that the characteristic mode analysis is a methodological tool or it's a scientific tool, and the discussion of this monostatic simulation validation with biostatic measurements suggest strong innovations in this RFID era or in this RFID technology. So it is I think it is more helpful to cooperate this ancient culture plus this a modern engineering technology, as engineering technology is getting advanced by day or second by second. So this will be more effective for the students who are now joining for the engineering sector too. And also it is blends, the abstract is blends conceptual framing such as recursion, it is layered encoding, decoding sections, how this identification happens, how this resonance feels, and also this how this chip plus passive RFIDs work. All the things were very nicely they have arranged or they have discussed in their paper, which is known as this design for future IoT systems. Overall, this abstract feels very very innovative or very technically depth. Originally it is technically it is very depth and it is an experimental validation is there. We can make an experiment, we can come with this idea, like that experimental validation is there, and it promises a greater contribution to this both RFID research and also for the broader discussion of this integration of our ancient mathematical concepts with modern engineering or modern field of engineering. So this collaboration looks beautiful, and it is quite attractive and interesting too. Hi, now we have to discuss another paper which is discussing some challenges or discussing some innovations from our medical field. So it is quite interesting. We have to discuss in this conference, which Viksit Bharat 2047 conference, we have to discuss about some medical field too. So it is titled as the healthcare system for patient management and medical equipment monitoring. So for the patient management system and also the monitoring system, which was written by Sudha M and Swaminathan S and Shubha M, which is Department of ECE, Srinivasa Ramanuja Center, Shastra, deemed to be University. What a nice paper that was, what a helpful vision they have, and I think mostly these papers we have discussed so far was actually they are integrating or they are standing hand by hand by the vision of this Viksit Bharat 2047 conferences or this venture too. So in this paper they have discussing about a well structured and technological accepts what about the healthcare monitoring system, how to monitor the health, how to monitor a patient, like by using some technology, means something which innovative technologies, which is some newly mostly used or some attractive or some useful beneficial things to be cooperated with this monitoring system, like integrating RFID, cloud data management, and also making some use of machine learning too. It's modern architecture, and this is covering as a predictive fault detection, patients, and the recording management, or the details to be how a patient can be monitored, how these equipments can be monitored, as well discussed in this paper. The use of the isolation forest algorithm. This is a lot of algorithms in machine learning and deep learning subjects, or in that loops. They are discussing about some isolation forest algorithm for anomaly detection and plotly dash for the interface visualization. So it make the healthcare or the health sector. It can take into another step of making a great move on this healthcare sector too. And these real-time datas and all the things which are cooperating with Twilio for the real-time, they are using with the Twilio for the real-time data. So it reflects a thoughtful combination. It reflects a thoughtful combination of the contemporary tools which is used in the clinical sectors. So it will be giving a new phase for those things. And the work is emphatically scalability. The work is very, very scalable, which is very, very unified, and an intellectual healthcare monitoring system was discussed by them. And they are combining this cloud-hosted medical record accesses through Firebase, that is RFID detection, and for the patient identification, and also they are using this Twilio for the real-time data. Is quite interesting for that. However, it remains in high level, and it is very beneficial. Quantifying performance metrics or the specifying hardware platforms will be smoothened, or it strengthens its ethical technology also. The ethical credibility or technical credibility also, it is affected by these monitoring sections when it came into use. Overall, the abstract is very clear and relevant and promising especially demonstrating the meaningful innovation in this digital healthcare management. Everything is visual, everything is changing to the digital areas. So the healthcare also, we need to move for the digital sector management or digital sections, digital healthcare management, and to the predictive maintenance too. Not only for the healthcare or maintaining something, but looking to something, the maintenance also, it is important. So it is also giving such a contribution to the maintenance sector too. The paper was nicely written, and they are discussing all the health innovations, health advancements are also truly greatly done with in this paper.